It's just gone 8:15. Let's return to our main story. Legal action is being launched against the pharmaceutical company Johnson & Johnson by a group of people in the UK.
It involves 1,900 claimants who say they or a loved one had cancer that was caused by talc, which had been contaminated with asbestos, although Johnson & Johnson insists there has never been a danger.
Talc was used in Johnson & Johnson baby powder sold in the UK up until 2023. That's when the firm announced it would be replacing it with a cornstarch, a move the company had already made in the US earlier in 2020.
Now, in the United States, the firm has been sued by more than 62,000 people. At least $13 billion, or over £10 billion, has been paid out or set aside in response to that action.
Well, we're joined now by Cassandra Wardle, who's part of the action group, and barrister Tom Langstaff. A very good morning to both of you. Thanks for joining us. Cassandra, do you want to start by telling us your story of diagnosis and the point at which you made that link? And important to point out that your voice at the moment is struggling, partially as a result of the immunosuppressants that you were on.
Yeah, so in 2021, I started experiencing symptoms of ovarian cancer and went through diagnosis. Had a really scary operation. They weren't sure at the time how I would be left. I could have been losing my bowel and my bladder. Thankfully, I haven't, and I've got those. Post-surgery, I then had to go for chemo. Chemotherapy was challenging. I had a dual chemotherapy, which was carboplatin and paclitaxel, and I was exceptionally ill throughout chemo. I was neutropenic, so I had no immune system at all, and chemo kept getting delayed through it. Whilst on chemo, I got tonsillitis, and I couldn't get rid of it because I had no immune system. And for about 9 months, I had tonsillitis through chemo and beyond. I finally got rid of it, got, back to normal for a couple of months, and then got tonsillitis again, and at that point my voice went. But as a result of treatment, chemo triggered asthma. I didn't have asthma before, and an inflammatory disease with autoimmune properties called sarcoidosis. So I'm left with long-term health conditions as a result of going through this process.
Are you okay if we ask you another question? Do you want to have a break? You're okay.
Okay.
So, in terms of your health over the last few years, just explain then the connection you believe from talc, which lots of people will have had in their bathrooms and used as kids and on their kids, and what's happened to you since. What do you believe?
I can't say, because I'm not a scientist, that the use of talc actually caused my cancer. What I can say is I used talc for a significant period of time in my life. And after surgery, before I started chemo, I saw the news in the States about what was happening, and I was absolutely incredulous. But at the time, I couldn't even think about it. I had to deal with chemo. Fast forward to now, and I think about the fact that I used talc for, a good period of my life, up to 20 years. And I think about what the reports have been saying, that actually that could have increased my chances of getting ovarian cancer. Ovarian cancer is usually found in women who are older. I was actually 44 at diagnosis. I was actually considered quite young for ovarian cancer, so most doctors wouldn't have even got the link. So I'm very fortunate that I'm here, but even so, incredulous at the fact that there could actually be a link at all between the use of talcum powder and the cause of the cancer that I've had to endure.
Tom, Johnson & Johnson, important to say, they've always denied that talc is the source. The source of the baby powder was contaminated with asbestos, and they say there are no links between talc and the risk of cancer. You must think differently to be taking this to court.
Absolutely. Talcum powder sold in the UK for decades has been tested and has been found to contain asbestos. Also, the World Health Organization recently declared talcum powder to be probably carcinogenic to humans and associated it with ovarian cancer. At KP Law, we act on behalf of 2,000 claimants, most of whom are women, but some men as well. And they have two things in common. The first is that they've been diagnosed with one of 4 types of cancer. And secondly, they've all used Johnson's baby powder.
So in terms of the group action, which Cassandra is part of, what are you, your clients, hoping to achieve? What's the point of this?
We want to hold Johnson & Johnson to account. We want to achieve a positive resolution for our clients. The current position is that in the US, Johnson & Johnson have made available a very substantial settlement scheme. They have paid damages in trials that they have lost. In the UK, we are at the start of the claim being brought, and we expect to see legal action over the next 2 to 3 years.
In a case like this, how feasible is it to prove that absolute causal link?
The case is really in 2 parts. Firstly, the contamination of talcum powder with asbestos. As I say, talcum powder has been tested and it's been found to contain asbestos. Secondly, the link between ovarian cancer and mesothelioma is based on studies. And what those studies demonstrate is that a user of talcum powder on a regular basis is more likely to develop diseases such as mesothelioma and ovarian cancer. And those studies have been undertaken over many years.
You mentioned asbestos. Just to remind you, Johnson & Johnson's saying that findings show uniformly no asbestos contamination in their baby powder that they've used over the years. Cassandra, I mean, people will be wondering, given that the huge sums of money that have been paid out in America, is this about money for you, or is this about accountability?
We need to know. We actually, I couldn't speak for me, but I assume a lot of people who have joined this actually want to know the truth, because the stories and what we've seen now is just incredible that causal links have been found in these studies between talcum powder and asbestos and the cancers that we've had to endure. We want accountability. We want to know, is this actually true, and what they actually knew at the time.
Presumably you've spoken with some of the other claimants, you've shared your stories with one another. What's that been like?
I'm part of a group who support each other through ovarian cancer, and all our journeys are different. Despite having an ovarian cancer diagnosis, we're all different stages and have had different experiences, and the support is around that rather than the talc. Because actually for us it's about survival and living beyond cancer. Not all of us have the ability to do that. Most days we get a notification to say somebody has passed away, so it's very difficult emotionally, but we're all there for each other, and I think that's what's important.
And how are you doing now?
Okay, I'm here to tell the story, and I'm here to live life. It's very difficult when you have to live with long-term health issues, and that affects your whole life. Income, relationships, family, friendships, social, everything you can imagine has been affected by this.
Impressive, all the more impressive to find the energy for this legal action then. And thank you for your time this morning, for explaining your story. Thank you to you, Tom, as well. Thank you.
And just a reminder, that statement that we've had from Johnson & Johnson, a spokesperson said that they take the issue of talc safety incredibly seriously, always have. As our documents show, it says in the statement, we have relied upon the most state-of-the-art testing protocols for decades and have been entirely transparent with government institutions and academic researchers regarding our findings.
Those findings, they say, uniformly show the absence of asbestos contamination in Johnson's baby powder and the talc sourced for Johnson's baby powder. Independent science makes clear that talc is not, they say, associated with the risk of ovarian cancer nor mesothelioma.
It's something that we will keep an eye on in the weeks and months ahead here on Breakfast. Right, 25 minutes past 8.
Let's join the gang at Morning Live. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Morning.
We are